Since January 2026, at least 7 major airport rules changed, and most travelers still have no idea. No announcement, no email, no alert when you booked your flight. Just quiet edits, buried inside policy pages, contract updates, and systems most people never check. And that matters more than it sounds, because these aren't small adjustments. They affect how much you pay, how early you need to arrive, whether you even get on your flight. Right now, people are showing up at airports thinking everything works the way it did last year, and finding out the hard way that it doesn't. Fees they didn't plan for, rules they didn't know existed, flights they thought they were safe on suddenly gone. And here's the part most people miss. None of this is random. Airlines don't need to hide these changes. They just need to know that most travelers won't go looking for them. So the system updates quietly, and the cost shows up later, at the gate, at security, or when something goes wrong. If you fly even once a year, this applies to you, because at least one of these changes is going to catch you off guard, and it's already costing people money every single day. So before your next trip, you need to see exactly what changed, how it actually works now, and what to do differently so you don't get caught in it. And if you've ever walked through an airport thinking you had everything handled, only to get surprised at the worst possible moment, subscribe now, because missing just one of these can cost you more than your ticket. Rule 1. Airline Identity Shift. Southwest bags. Let's start with the trap that's catching people off guard the most. Southwest Airlines, the airline built on one simple promise: bags fly free, ended free checked bags on January 27, 2026. That wasn't just a perk. That was the reason millions of people chose Southwest without even thinking twice. You didn't compare prices, you didn't check competitors, you just assumed it would come out cheaper once bags were included. And that assumption is exactly what's costing people money right now. Because this didn't come with a big announcement. No campaign, no warning during booking, just a quiet update to their policy page. Now, your first checked bag can cost anywhere from $35 to $65, depending on your route and timing. Here's where it gets practical. Most travelers are still booking Southwest out of habit. Same mindset, same expectations, but the math has changed. And when you actually include that bag fee, Southwest is sometimes no longer the cheaper option. So before you book, stop relying on memory. Take 2 minutes, plug in your flight with bags included, and compare it against at least one other airline. Because in 2026, the biggest travel mistake isn't picking the wrong airline, it's assuming the rules stayed the same. Rule 2. Carry-on enforcement tightening. Now here's one people used to get away with for years, and that window is closing fast. That carry-on you've been bringing without thinking twice, gate agents are now physically testing it in the sizer. Not a quick glance, not a judgment call. They're pulling bags aside and making them fit on the spot. This started tightening in late 2025 and pushed even harder through 2026 across airlines like American, Spirit, and Frontier. And there's something most travelers don't realize. At some airlines, gate agents are financially rewarded for catching oversized bags. In certain cases, that means a commission for every bag that gets flagged and sent to be checked. So the incentive has changed. What used to be flexible is now being enforced with precision. If your bag doesn't fit exactly the way it's supposed to, you're paying right there at the gate, usually between $25 and $75 depending on the airline. No warning, no negotiation, no time to repack. And this is where a lot of people get caught, because it fit last time doesn't matter anymore. So here's the move that saves you from that moment. Measure your bag at home with an actual tape measure, not by eye. If it's even slightly borderline, don't risk it. Either downsize or pay for it during booking when it's cheaper. And if you want to be extra sure, most airports have sizers near check-in before security. Test it there when you still have options. Because in 2026, the gate is no longer where you find out, it's where you pay for not checking earlier. Rule 3. Facial recognition expansion. Most people step up to TSA, look into the camera, and don't think twice. But here's what changed. At over 65 airports across the US, TSA is now using facial recognition systems that scan your face and match it to your ID in seconds. It feels automatic, like part of the process, but it isn't required. That's the part almost no one tells you. There's no clear sign, no prompt that says you have a choice, so people assume they have to comply. And in doing that, your facial data is captured and stored within federal systems tied to identity verification. For some travelers, that's fine. For others, it's not something they ever agree to. The key point is control. If you don't want to use it, you can opt out every single time. Just say it clearly. I'd like to opt out of facial recognition. They'll check your ID manually. It takes maybe 20 to 30 seconds longer. That's it. No penalty, no extra screening, no delay that affects your flight. In 2026, the process didn't just change. It became something you're expected to accept unless you know you can say no.
Rule 4. Real ID hidden fee. This one hits at the worst possible moment, right when you think you're about to clear security. You hand over your driver's license, and suddenly you're told it's not compliant, not real ID. And now there's a $45 fee to keep going. That's the Confirm ID process, launched quietly, not during booking, not in your confirmation email. You find out standing in line, with your bags, your family, and your departure time getting closer. For one person, it's frustrating. For a family of 4, that's $180, paid on the spot just to board a flight you already purchased. And most people never saw it coming, because nothing during the booking process flags it clearly. No warning that your ID could cost you extra at the airport. So here's the simple check that saves you from all of that. Pull out your driver's license and look at the top right corner. If there's a gold star, you're good. If there isn't, fix it before your next trip. Make the DMV appointment once and you're done. Because in 2026, this isn't about forgetting a document. It's about paying for something you didn't even know was required. Most people don't find this out until they're already at the airport. If you've ever been caught off guard while traveling, comment me. I want to see how common this really is. Rule 5. United check-in policy change. Here's one that catches people who think they've timed it perfectly. You check in online, your boarding pass is on your phone, you're heading to the airport thinking you're within the window, and then you find out your seat has been released. United quietly changed its domestic check-in cutoff. It used to be 30 minutes before departure. Now it's 45. No announcement, no alert when you book, just one line updated in the contract of carriage, the section almost nobody reads. And that one line changes everything. Because if you miss that cutoff, your reservation can be canceled. It doesn't matter if you already checked in online. It doesn't matter if you're standing in the airport. To the system, you're late, and your seat can be reassigned to someone else. This is where people get caught trying to be efficient, cutting it close, trusting the old timing. So here's the adjustment that keeps you safe. Don't aim for the cutoff. Ignore it completely. Be checked in and physically at your gate at least 60 minutes before departure. Not at security, not in line, at the gate. Because in 2026, the margin for error is gone, and the system isn't waiting for you to catch up. Rule 6. Quiet fee increases. Between January and March 2026, major airlines quietly increased checked bag fees. Not by much, $5 here, $10 there, no announcement, no headline, just a different number on a webpage. And that's exactly why it works. Because most travelers don't recheck the fee. They assume it's the same as last time. But for a family of 4 flying round trip with checked bags, that small increase can easily turn into an extra $100 or more on a single trip. Money gone without any clear moment where it felt like a decision. That's how these changes slip through. So here's the habit that protects you. Every time you book a flight, check the baggage fee on that exact airline for that exact route on that day. Then take a screenshot and save it with your booking confirmation. It takes less than 30 seconds. And if something doesn't match later, you have proof. Because in 2026, it's not just about what flights cost. It's about what they quietly cost after you've already committed. Rule 7. Stricter lost baggage claims, Delta. Delta has tightened its lost baggage claims process. On paper, it still looks the same. You file a claim, list your items, wait for reimbursement. But behind the scenes, the responsibility has shifted. It's now on you to prove what was inside your bag, the value, the purchase history, even approximate dates. And without that, claims can be reduced or denied entirely. That's where people get caught, because most travelers pack, check the bag, and move on, assuming the airline will handle it if something happens. But in 2026, I had clothes and essentials in there isn't enough anymore. No documentation means no leverage. So here's the simple step that changes everything. Before every trip, open your suitcase and take clear photos of what's inside, not just the bag, the contents. Then email those photos to yourself. Now you have a timestamp, a record, something concrete if you ever need to file a claim. It takes less than a minute, and it can save you hundreds. Because in this system, the outcome isn't based on what you say you packed, it's based on what you can prove. And this is exactly the kind of detail most travelers never see coming. This is the kind of stuff airlines assume you won't read. If you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe, because these changes aren't slowing down.
Here's where things get confusing, because a lot of people think the rules have changed when they actually haven't. The 311 liquids rule, still fully in place. You're still limited to containers under 3.4 ounces, all inside a single clear quart-size bag. Social media might tell you otherwise, but at most airports, nothing about that rule has been removed. What has changed is the technology. Some airports now use CT scanners, machines that can see inside your bag in 3D. At those checkpoints, you might be allowed to leave your liquids and laptop inside your carry-on. But here's the catch. Not every airport has them. And even within the same airport, not every lane is upgraded. So one trip feels seamless. The next feels like a step back in time. And if you assume the easier process applies everywhere, that's where delays start. Then there's carry-on sizing. Airlines are tightening dimensions again, and more importantly, enforcing them consistently. That margin people used to rely on, it's disappearing. So if your bag is even slightly over, expect to be stopped. Now step outside the US, and the shift becomes even more structured. Europe has introduced the entry-exit system. Every time you enter or leave the Schengen zone, your photo and fingerprints are recorded.
No more simple passport stamps. First-time entry takes longer, especially at busy airports. Then there's ETS. Before you even board a flight to Europe, you'll need to apply online for travel authorization. It's quick and expensive, but if you forget, you don't fly. And in the UK, air passenger duty has increased again. You won't always see it clearly, but it's built into ticket prices, especially in premium cabins. Put all of this together, and one pattern stands out. Travel isn't just changing, it's becoming more controlled and more expensive. And the difference now comes down to one thing: whether you're reacting to these changes at the airport or preparing for them before you get there. For a moment, something in your favor. In 2026, the US Department of Transportation changed how refunds work. If your flight is canceled or significantly delayed, airlines are now required to issue automatic refunds, not credits, not vouchers you have to chase down. Your money comes back to your original form of payment. And if you paid for extras, seat selection, checked bags, onboard Wi-Fi, and didn't receive them, those get refunded too. But there's a condition most people overlook. The system works best when the data is clear. So if your flight is delayed, take a screenshot of the time change. Keep receipts for anything you pay out of pocket. It's simple, but it speeds everything up when the process starts. Now, beyond refunds, there's a different layer most travelers are starting to use: the tools that change how fast you move through the airport. Mobile passport control is one of them. It's free. You download the app, submit your details before landing, and skip part of the customs line when you arrive in the US. Then there's global entry. If you travel internationally more than once or twice a year, this is one of the few things that consistently saves time. Faster re-entry, less waiting, more predictability. And Clear Plus. It doesn't replace security, but it moves you through identity verification faster. Combine it with TSA PreCheck, and the entire front end of the airport becomes more efficient. This is how experienced travelers move differently, not by rushing, but by removing friction before it happens. And looking ahead, the system is moving even further in that direction. Facial recognition boarding is expanding across international terminals. In many cases, your face becomes your boarding pass, and digital travel credentials are being tested, secure versions of your passport stored on your phone. You won't need them everywhere yet, but the shift is already underway. In a couple years, walking through an airport without pulling out a single document won't feel unusual. And that's the bigger picture. Air travel isn't just changing rules, it's changing how identity, access, and movement are handled entirely. So if you want to stay ahead of that curve, subscribe now, because most people won't adjust until they're forced to, and by then, they're already behind. There's another layer most people never notice: the way airports are designed to guide your behavior. That calm feeling you get after security, lower ceilings, softer lighting, wider walkways, it's intentional. Relaxed passengers spend more. In some terminals, layouts are built to lead you through retail before you even see your gate. It's called the Golden Walk. You're not wandering, you're being routed. Then there's your luggage. After check-in, your bag enters a system of conveyors, scanners, and sorting belts that rely heavily on barcodes. If an old tag is still attached or a scan fails at the wrong point, your bag can be misrouted without anyone noticing immediately. It's not common, but it happens more than people think. Up in the air, your senses shift too. At cruising altitude, your ability to taste drops, especially for sweetness and salt. That's why airline food is seasoned more aggressively. It's not just preference, it's compensation for how your body responds to pressure and dry cabin air. Back at security, those quick swabs on your hands or bag, they're not checking cleanliness. They're analyzing trace particles for chemical signatures tied to restricted materials. It's fast, targeted, and most travelers never realize what's being tested. Now, a few practical moves that make your trip smoother immediately. Skip hot drinks on the plane when possible. The water used isn't always held to the same standard as bottled options. Use disinfectant wipes on tray tables. They're among the most frequently used and least consistently cleaned surfaces on board. If you can choose your departure time, go early. Morning flights face fewer delays because the schedule hasn't had time to fall behind. And if you prefer a window seat, bring a layer. The outer wall of the aircraft transfers cold more than the aisle. For jet lag, start adjusting before you leave. Shift your sleep slightly toward your destination time, stay hydrated, and get natural light as soon as you land. Small changes make a noticeable difference. Because when you step back and look at all of this, one thing becomes clear. Travel in 2026 isn't harder, it just rewards people who prepare. Which one of these caught you off guard the most? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one.